Hello, good morning to all the students of Sastri first year. Today we are talking about what motivates terrorists. It is an important question, but is it the best one to be asking? This is written by Simon Cutty. What motivates terrorists is an essay that discusses about the motivations of contemporary international terrorist criminology and the sociology. The question, why do people join terrorist groups and participate in acts of terrorism, is a complex one to answer. There are as many answers to these questions as there are terrorist groups in the world. Everyone from clerics to caustic cab drivers seems to have a confident opinion on this subject, as the interior world of terrorists can be easily discovered and mapped out. Everyone seems to be expert to know and analyze about it, but it is not so easy to find out the realities. No one can find out the realities. The network of terrorism and terrorists cannot be discovered and addressed on time, even by the government. Instead of asking why people join terrorist groups and commit terrorist atrocities, a more worthwhile starting point for explanation is to ask how. It is better to ask how terrorists get connected with the organization of terrorists, how individuals get connected with the terrorist organization. Why is not as important as how question. If we question with the right word how, and we find the right solution of preventing terrorists from the terrorism or individual joining in the terrorist group. The scholars believe that the root of terrorism lie not in the individual but in the wider circumstances in which terrorists live and act. Is hard to trace. Please find out this is not hard. This is SAD, SARD, hard, not SART. Hard to trace. Trace means find out. Terrorism is the product of deeper historical, economic, or cultural forces over and above the individual. Violence is rooted in historical structures or social relationships, but not in individual mindsets. Violence comes not from the individual mindsets, but from the historical structures and social relationships. So violence creates the terrorism, gives birth to terrorism. Terrorism is caused by certain attraction. There is attraction in it. And to fulfill the hidden desires of the individuals. Individuals generally want to fulfill the hidden desires. And for that, terrorism is one of the attractions there they can join. It is a quest for the contentment and satisfaction of the instinct, means inner feelings and thoughts, and somehow linked with historical causes and events too. Because of historical causes and historical events, the terrorism is linked. The roots of jihadist terrorism lie not in Islam but in the large number of historical crimes and injustices of Western imperialism, mostly in 2003 invasion in Iraq. The writer says that it is because of Western invasion, Western imperialism. In 2003, there was attack in America, in Iraq by American policy, American soldiers, and it is one of the cause of generating terrorism in the world and giving birth to terrorists. Jihadist violence is fueled by Muslim anger and revenge. It is believed that the West harasses Muslims. It is the outcome of discrimination and prejudice in religions and the reactions of the victims and their groups to revenge the victimizers on them. One of the most sensitive and profound explorations of terrorism comes not from the scholars but from a novelist, Philip Roth's American Pastorals. The name of the novel is American Pastorals, and there is a murder case in the novel. It is a murder mystery in which the main point is not the who, but why. Who murder is not important, but why murder is important, right? The protagonist is a Samuel Lobo. Hero is Samuel Lobo. Is a successful businessman whose 16-year-old daughter Meredith blows up a post office to protest the Vietnam War, and she kills a bystander. And it was her protest against Vietnam War, but people went on asking why she killed, and the fact was not found. Our law professor Stephen Holmes says that sometimes what the terrorists do is motivated by reasons that are dark, simple, and bizarre to be openly acknowledged. It means sometimes terrorists do or commit the crimes, commit the violence, and they do the work. And there are certain reasons, they are motivated by certain reasons, but those reasons are very dark, very simple, very bizarre, and they do not want to open it publicly, right? Organ suggests that more manageable and useful question to ask about terrorism is not why but how and when and where. How did this specific person come to join to this specific organization is most important question to ask. What networks helped the act of joining in that terrorist organization? That is also most important question to ask. And to find out the solution of this question is the main idea of the essay. Because these questions about the circumstances of terrorism to prevent and stop terrorist recruitment. Okay, because these questions about the circumstances of terrorism is or are better to prevent and to stop terrorist recruitment. Terrorists must not be joined there in the organization of terrorism, right? So it is to prevent, it is to stop them from joining the terrorist activities, terrorist organizations. The only one solution of the terrorist is not the enforcement of law by using bullets and guns, but by the fair management of justice and by addressing their demands. If fair management of justice is done, if the demands of the terrorists are addressed on time, and then it is possible to solve. But by the implication of law, by the implication of guns and bullet and the force, terrorism cannot be stopped. It cannot be solved. Rather, it increases. Rather, it brings disasters. Terrorists can be stopped by the intelligence and skills through the process of managing the equality and opportunity to all. There must be equality, there must be opportunity to all, and it is through the skill and the intelligence that terrorism can be addressed or solved, stopped. Terrorism is caused by the unemployment, poverty, lack of opportunity, violence, and lack of justice and the like. To solve the terrorism is through the negotiation and finding the networks of the terrorists, how, when, and from where they get connected and get excited in such destructive activities. That is, these things are to be found out, and their demands must be addressed. Breaking the networks and addressing their concerned issues can be the effective and constructive research to minimize the terrorist activities in the entire world. We must break their networks with the terrorist organization. We must address their demands, their issues, what they want effectively. And we must just make constructive research and find out the fact to address the problem of terrorists and terrorism in the world. The terrorists are to be dealt psychologically and tactfully to brainwash their negative, destructive, and inhuman act to remove from the society so far because they have destructive brain, negative brain, inhuman act they have in the society. These sort of things should be addressed psychologically and tactfully. The main idea of the essay is to show is how to solve. There is to is how to. Please write to. How to solve the how to solve the issues of terrorists to uproot the terrorism from the world. This is how the writer has brought the present burning issues of the world. Terrorism, what motivates? Instead of asking question what, we must ask question why. And we must ask when, and we must ask where, and the ultimate and final best question to ask is how, because when we ask a right question, and then only we get the right answer. If we ask the question how, they get connected with the terrorist organization, how they get excited in destructive activities, and what their demands are there, and why they just join. And if we address these questions, answers, and terrorists can be prevented, terrorists can be stopped, terrorists can be solved from the world. Otherwise, it cannot be addressed and solved. A little bit I want to talk in Nepali to the Sanskrit university, Sanskrit students. यस एसएमा टेरोरिस्टहरूलाई केले मोटिभेट गर्छ, आकर्षित गर्छ भन्नुभन्दा पनि किन गर्छ, कहाँ गर्यो, कहिले गर्यो भन्ने क्वेसन सोध्नु महत्त्वपूर्ण हो। र त्योभन्दा पनि अझ राम्रो कसरी गर्यो भन्ने, किन भन्दा कसरी गर्यो भन्दा कुनै पनि व्यक्ति आतङ्ककारीको संस्थामा कसरी जोइन भयो, कसरी नेटवर्कमा गयो, कसरी समाजले त्यसलाई जोड्यो, कसरी कुन सम्बन्धले त्यसलाई जोड्यो, र त्यो कसरी जोड्यो भन्ने कुरो पत्ता लगाएपछि निज व्यक्तिहरूको टेरोरिस्टहरूको मुख्य माग के छ त्यसलाई समाधान गरियो भने त्यसलाई टेरोरिस्टको अर्गनाइजेसनमा संस्थामा जोइन हुनबाट, त्यहाँ फाइट गर्न, त्यहाँ एक्साइटेड हुन, त्यहाँ आकर्षित हुनबाट रोक्यौँ भने र उसको ब्रेन वास गरेर पोजिटिभ कुरोमा उसलाई ल्यायौँ भने संसारबाट टेरोरिस्टको आतङ्कको समस्यालाई समाधान गर्न सकिन्छ, टेरोरिजमलाई समाधान गर्न सकिन्छ, टेरोरिस्टहरूलाई कन्ट्रोल गर्न सकिन्छ र नेगेटिभ ब्रेनलाई पोजिटिभ ब्रेनतिर ल्याउन सकिन्छ। उनीहरूको ब्रेनलाई वास गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ, डिस्ट्रक्टिभ विनाशकारी अनिखेर इनह्युमन अमानवीय सोचहरूलाई हटाएर मानवीय सोचहरू सिर्जना गरेर यस टेरोरिजमलाई को ज्वरो उखेलेर फ्याँक्न सकिन्छ संसारबाट। यसको समाधान कानुनले होइन, यसको समाधान बन्दुकले होइन, यसको समाधान गोलीले होइन, यसको समाधान त कसरी गर्ने भन्दा इन्टेलिजेन्सले, स्किलले, कलाले, क्षमताले निजलाई ती टेरोरिस्टहरूलाई, ती व्यक्तिहरूलाई इक्वालिटीको, समानताको कुरो, अवसरको कुरो व्यवस्थापन गरिदिएर उनीहरूलाई राम्ररी एड्रेस गर्यो उनीहरूको डिमान्ड, उनीहरूको मागलाई भने यसको समाधान गर्न सकिन्छ। नभए टेरोरिस्टको ग्रुप र टेरोरिजम अगाडि बढिरहन्छ, वर्ल्ड इन्सेक्योर हुन्छ। यसलाई सेक्योर बनाउन, सुरक्षित बनाउनको लागि, पिसफुल बनाउनको लागि टेरोरिस्टहरू कसरी अर्गनाइजेसनमा, टेरोरिस्टहरूको अर्गनाइजेसनमा जोइन हुन्छ, नेटवर्कले कुन नेटवर्कमा जोइन हुन्छ, सोसाइटीले कसरी सहयोग गर्छ भन्ने कुरालाई पत्ता लगाएर यो समाधान गर्नु महत्त्वपूर्ण हो भन्ने आइडिया, भन्ने तर्क प्रस्तुत गरेका छन्। The writer has exactly mirrored the real burning issues of the world, how terrorists are connected with the organization of terrorists, how the social networks make them connected with the terrorist group, how the individual person is linked with the terrorist organization, and how the individuals are motivated and excited in the destructive works, in the just horrible activities of destruction and killing to one another. This is what's to be found out in the they are to be dealt psychologically, tactfully, to bring them into positive side, into humanitarian aspect, and just to opening their eyes that these destructive activities are not good for humanities. This is how the writer has brought the concept of terrorism and how to stop terrorism. Thank you.